Bungie's new tiered system has become the topic of immense controversy. Some loving the system, wanting the grind, and others not a big fan. We're going to talk a little bit about this viral Reddit post here that was getting the role you want, knowing there is a higher tier will always feel bad. So if you don't know what they're talking about, right now you could get a god roll of a weapon, but because we're so early on in the expansion, it would likely be a tier 1 weapon or a tier 2 weapon at best. So what they're offering is we need a way to upgrade somehow. So that way you could take your tier 1 weapon and maybe convert it into a tier 5 weapon. However, that process is very reminiscent of what crafting does, right? Like that's kind of the same thing ends up happening in some ways. It's just kind of a different workaround to crafting, which crafting largely was disliked by the Destiny 2 community because it, instead of giving people that sort of randomized chance or investing your time repeat activities, it just forced people to do said activity, get your red borders, and then craft the exact weapon you want. So it came across maybe a little less, it came across soulless, right? Destiny 2, there's a fun element to, getting some randomized loot. Maybe we're all just addicted to gambling, right? There's literally like those principles of gambling are in the loot that we get. I think it's called intermittent rewards. It's like a principle of psychology or something that people study that has to do with like what makes people addicted to stuff like that. Yeah, it's called intermittent reinforcement. It's like a social science where people can manufacture addictive properties into people's psyche. They actually tested this out on pigeons, which is kind of messed up. And I'm not going to get too deep in this, but they tested it out on pigeons where they would give a pigeon food every time at the same time of day, and it would come by and give the pigeon food. And then what they would do is they would show up and they would stop giving the pigeon food. And so the pigeon would be like, so what the pigeons would start doing is they would become like superstitious and like do weird things. They would start like dancing and they would start dancing for their food and stuff, right? And so they just wanted to get that reward back, right? So that intermittent reinforcement, that sounds like Destiny to me, right? We are the pigeons in this experiment, literally. And so what this does is it creates a very addictive behavior where you want this certain reward, and instead of just getting it consistently, if you just always get this consistent reward, right? What happens is you get bored of it. But if you grind an activity and sometimes you get a crazy god roll and other times you get just complete trash, right? Then you're left with the feeling of like, I got to try again. I got to roll the dice once more, right? And whether we're all addicted to gambling or not, that's how we've been doing things for a long time, is god rolls and randomized weapon rolls. It can be expensive, but it should be an option in regards to upgrading your tier 1 weapons to tier 5 weapons. If we're going to keep crafting out of the game, having a pathway to upgrade and tweak masterworks would be probably a good idea, right? So Paul Tassi quote tweets this and says, "This is also the aspect of crafting that was bad, but that system was designed to make grinds less oppressive at least. So crafting was designed to take away that randomized grind where you could do an activity for a god roll 1,000 times and never get it. In this situation with crafting, you could do an activity 10 times, you get your 10 red borders, or your 5 red borders rather, and then you're done. So less grind, but still some effort had to be put in, but just maybe not as much to get that exact roll." He goes on to say, "Tiers are designed to make the grind as long as humanly possible, which is going to backfire badly," which is a very interesting take. I don't know if it's true. I think that we're currently conducting a social experiment right now within Destiny 2 as to whether or not Destiny 2 players are going to adopt and be a part of the new grind culture that Bungie has created. Because Destiny 2, if you thought it was hardcore before, in the Edge of Fate, this game is way more hardcore. We're talking way more. The power grind alone, 90 hours, a lot of the same old activities. If you want to get the best raid loot, guess what? You get tier 1 loot on your first clear. You get tier 1 loot when you clear the damn contest raid. So now what do you have to do? You have to clear it multiple times to unlock tier 2 loot. You have to clear it even more with even crazier challenges, unlock tier 3 loot. Getting tier 5 loot in the raid is going to be crazy difficult. Crazy difficult. But some of you out there are deranged, and you will do it. You'll grind for that tier 5 loot. And I am in that camp, unfortunately, because I want that tier 5 raid rocket. That thing is crazy. The roll on that tier 5 raid rocket would be amazing. The god roll. That's what we want. All right? So there is this carrot on the end of the stick, okay? Now, would a tier 5 god roll of the raid rocket be so much better than a tier 2? Not, I mean, not like really. Not like, it's not going to be like night and day difference, but it would feel really nice, right? So that's kind of an interesting dynamic that Bungie has created with this. Now, will this keep Destiny players playing? We're going to have to watch the Steam charts and see what happens. Right now, we're looking at 7 days out, okay? We got a new high peak of 108,000 in Edge of Fate. This was because of the raid. All right, this was better than launch day. This shows you how important the raids are. The raid launch day did better than the actual launch of Edge of Fate. It sold and more people played than people played the damn campaign on day one, which also goes to show you that people have jobs and they play on the weekends. So the Destiny 2 reset being at like the morning or afternoon in America is also kind of a shit time for the reset. I'm an advocate for let's make the Destiny 2 reset at like the end of the weekend or something, but I don't know. Maybe this is a conversation that people don't want to hear yet. This is a conversation that people are not ready for yet. Make the Destiny 2 reset on the weekend, so that way everyone's excited to log in at the weekend when they have free time, you know? Anyways, that rant is over. Here's where we're at with the population. Just today, we had a low point of 27,000, and currently, during peak hours, prime time, we're at 53,000. So today alone, we hit our very first sub 30,000 player base day, which is pretty crazy. Sub 30,000 on the second week of an expansion. These are numbers that we've never even fathomed could happen, especially from where we were just a few years ago. Maybe the numbers will continue. Maybe the people that do play will be a very niche, very hardcore audience. We'll see if that strategy works out for Bungie in the long run. But what I am not interested in is resetting all of my power levels in 6 months. All right, Renegades is going to drop. I'm going to get a lightsaber. It's going to be awesome. All right, we're probably going to get some other crazy stuff. We're going to be a new Palpatine strike or something, right? I'm joking. It's going to be a Destiny story, but I always joke. I joke that there's going to be a Palpatine strike. But we're going to be running around the tower with Padme, and it's going to be a great time to play Renegades. But I'm going to be salty if all of my power grind from now until then gets reset. All right, if Bungie takes all the power and all the hours that you have to invest in, 90 hours of time to go from 200 to the cap, if not more than 90 hours, and they just take it and flush it down the toilet, and now I get dropped back down to 200, I'm not going to be happy about that. I'm not going to be happy about that. We got to come up with a new system, okay? That one's a grind, but that's now I have to get back into the salt mines? You're telling me after clocking in 8-hour shifts in the mines, I got to get back in there? Every 6 months, I got to clock back into the salt mines? No, I won't. I'll do this power grind once. I will grind my power for the Edge of Fate to maximum power because it's something new, and I definitely want tier 5 weapons now. But if this is the new norm for the next few years going forward, I think there's going to be a certain level where I call it quits. I'm going to say like, hey, I'll start at 200. I'll grind back up to maybe 300, maybe 350, but that's it. You know, 350 and I'm good. I'm not going to commit to maximum power every time. There are a few deranged individuals right now that are already in the 400 plus power. Want to see this? Season 27 max power. This guy has 420 power. He's 420 power. This expansion came out 10 days ago. 10 days ago, this expansion came out. Defizzle is 412 power. Oh my god. 412, 411. Oh my goodness. These guys are grinding. Rookie numbers? Yeah, you got to get it back up to your old power level. That's... What were we at power level wise before Edge of Fate? We got to get back all the way up there. No sleep. No sleep until 2,000 power. I'm joking. You can't get that high. There's the cap's at like 450 right now, I believe. This guy is nuts though. What is your current power level? How do you feel about the grind in Destiny 2? How do you feel about the power grind being tied to the best loot, meaning that all of the weapons you get right now are not nearly as enticing as their tier 5 counterparts? Meaning any loot you get at the start of an expansion, albeit might be good for that period of time, it won't stand the test of time because eventually you'll want those tier 2s, those tier 3s, those tier 4s, and of course, the ever elusive tier 5s. We're going to continue the conversation and see what people are saying, and hopefully maybe we can change Bungie's mind here. Right? Maybe we can convince Bungie that we don't need to reset our power every 6 months because that's bad. Not a fan of that. It's either that or the old system, which was they kept increasing the power. Obviously, we don't want to go back to that. This new system is a little more streamlined and simplistic for new players jumping in, so I don't necessarily hate it, but the idea of being reset, maybe we reset people like you offset it a little bit, you know? Kind of like they do with Guardian ranks. I think like if you get like max Guardian rank, they'll reset you back a few after a period of time or something. Maybe you lose 50 power every 6 months. I'll give up 50 power if I have to. But all the like you're gonna be like 450. You're gonna be like 450 or 500 when Renegades drops, and they're gonna drop you down to 200, and you're gonna have to grind it right back up again. You're gonna have to get right back up there. You have to get back on the horse, and you're gonna have to get your ass back in the mines, jump back in those salt mines, and get to work, clocking in those 8-hour shifts. Someone commented saying that the tiers are stupid. I moved away from this DLC. I might come back for Renegade or whatever it's called. If you come back, the same tiered system will be there, which is totally fine. Always take a break if you're not feeling it. But this tiered system is here to stay, you know? Someone said, it's a looter shooter. They had to change the complete system. That's true. If you keep doing the same thing for so long, it eventually gets really bored and repetitive, right? So you do have to do a radical shift. And Bungie needed to decide, with the launch of Edge of Fate, are we going in the direction of taking things more casual, or are we taking things more hardcore? They tried with the launch of Destiny 2 to make things significantly more casual. I mean, and it backfired bad. So I think they learned their lessons from the launch of Destiny 2 and from other things they've tried over the years. And I think they've decided to go the more hardcore route. They said, yeah, we're going to be that hardcore MMO that the dedicated community wants. And casual players, you can hop into, you can still have fun. I mean, you can do the campaigns, you can roam around the worlds, you can get fun loot. Hell, you can play Crucible. We got skill-based matchmaking, keeping you safe from the defizzles out there in the world. You'll be fine. But the hardcore players, you now have a reason to grind. You need to get back in the mines. In fact, you need to stop watching this video and get back in the mines right now.